To part 7 of the compulsory heterosexuality, Am I a Lesbian? Masterdoc. Okay, we left off sexual fantasies. Our culture places a big emphasis on sex when it comes to orientation. Some people's orientation includes sexual attraction, and some people's orientation doesn't. But most of us feel like our sexual fantasies are the most important indicator of non-straight sexuality because LGBTQ AI plus people have been so thoroughly reduced to sexual acts and sexual objects in the homophobic culture we've grown up in. Along with that, we've also grown up in a heteronormative and cisnormative society that repeatedly teaches and re-emphasizes the same singular sexual script for how sex is supposed to go, over and over and over. They do not teach any others, and it requires non-straight and non-cis people to invent their own sexual scripts individually and with their partners. But as a young person, when you are aroused, your mind has a very limited template of potential narratives associated with that feeling. So many people default to the same heteronormative script in their fantasies because it's unconscious and easy. Because of this, you might feel like you must be attracted to men because you imagine abstract situations of sex with men, even though you have absolutely no desire to sleep with men in real life. I'm going to duck out of the way so you can screenshot. Next page. Actual attraction. When you fantasize about men, it's because you're attracted to their bodies or specific men or the idea of having sex with men. You imagine qualities of their body and you like the idea of what you're imagining. If you think about the fantasies later that day, you might feel like it's embarrassing, but you also feel like it's sex. Compulsory heterosexuality. When you fantasize about men, it's mostly just enacting a kind of narrative, more focused on movement than features. The men in your fantasies might be faceless or blank featured, or their bodies might symbolize some emotion. You don't really like the idea of what you're imagining. You might not even be into the fantasy, but instead other faceless women might be. You might even imagine yourself as the man. The narrative follows the sexual script, but the details are more vague and more abstract. You might even shift and change throughout the fantasy. If you think about it later that day, you might feel vaguely nauseated or uncomfortable, or feeling invalidated and wrong. It's really difficult to unroot compulsory heterosexuality. My simplest advice on getting through this, even if you are attracted to men, you do not need to date them if you don't want to. And if you only want to date other women, then you have the right to do that. The rest is less important than the simple reality of what you want to do right now. Kind of love that. That's very empowering. Okay, screenshot. Next page. You might be a lesbian if too long didn't read. Wish you were a lesbian so that you could escape the discomfort of dating men. Okay, tick. Men are okay in theory, but terrible in practice, like a tick. If you feel that you could live with a woman in a romantic way, even if you can't imagine doing anything sexual with a woman, you feel like you could enjoy sexual interaction with women, even if you can't imagine having romantic feelings for a woman. You lose interest in a man as soon as they seem interested in you. Very common. You find yourself trying to be romantically or sexually appealing to men, even if you're not interested in them. As a child, you always thought you would never get married or platonically marry a friend. You can't imagine having a happy and fulfilling future with a man. You feel like you're performing your attraction for men, for yourself and / other people. You expect relationships with men to be unfulfilling by default. You feel like the idea of men being attracted to you, but you dislike the idea of being attracted to men. You dislike being attracted to men in general. You only notice the attractiveness of a man when someone else points it out. You think that your feelings for women don't count, or that women have feelings, quotes, like that, but they're not valid because you think it's a phase everyone goes through. Okay, screenshot. Okay, next page. You might be a lesbian if you don't want to date men, but you feel like you have to. You think that because you could survive dating, marrying, and / or having sex with a man, that you're attracted to men. Parentheses, hint. You don't have to settle for just surviving. You think that it's objective and uncontested that almost all women are way more attractive than most men. Like, that's a fact. The men in your fantasies are faceless or symbolize an emotion. I still don't really understand that. You don't like fantasizing about men. After fantasizing about men, you feel uncomfortable or wrong. When fantasizing about men, you're not really into the man in your fantasy or the fantasy itself. You imagine another woman in place of yourself, or imagine that you're the man in the fantasy. Lesbian or gay feels like a label for you, but you still doubt yourself for whatever reason. You're only attracted to fictional men, celebrities, or a man that's completely unobtainable. Parentheses, i.e. your teacher, a gay man, men in established relationships. Basically, you only like men if it's impossible for them to like you back. very common. Prefer / are exclusively attracted to feminine men, parentheses, i.e. men that wear traditionally feminine clothing, have traditionally feminine behaviours or appearances, and like traditionally feminine things. Basically, you only like men if they're, quote, womanly enough. You are repulsed by the dynamics of most / all real life male-female relationships that you've seen and / or regularly feel like, quotes, maybe it works out for them, but I never want my relationship to be like that. Screenshot. Next page. You might be a lesbian if you think that you might be commitment phobic because no relationship, no matter how great the guy feels quite right, and you drag your feet when it comes time to escalate it. When you do escalate a relationship with a man, you do it mostly because you feel like he wants to, or because it's the appropriate thing to do. You think that your interest in seeing attractive women stems from the sexualization, objectification of women in media. You think that all straight women feel attracted to women, at least to some extent. Parentheses, hint, 100% straight women do not exist. Think that you have to learn how to love men. You find yourself wishing that you were a lesbian because it would make life so much easier just to be with a woman for the rest of your life. You think that men attractive women over-exaggerate their attraction to men, and you can't comprehend finding a man as attractive as they do. You can't imagine being so invested in a man / relationship with a man, or valuing a man / relationship with a man as much as men attracted women. You dread the idea of a future with a man. Men expressing their attraction to men is more relatable than women expressing their attraction for men. Parentheses, there is something specific about same gender attraction in any form that is just more relatable than a different gender attraction. You think that you have to give men a chance. You feel very uncomfortable reading or watching male-female erotica or even general male-female romantic interactions. Other people tell you you're acting like an over-invested lesbian ally, or you feel like you're acting like an overly invested lesbian ally. Screenshot. Okay, I'm going to do another part. This is the last part. We're getting to the end.